Okay. Hi, Miss Tiffany Jevne. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Just really quickly, tell me where you are a court reporter and maybe some of your credentials and things.
I am currently a court reporter at the Southwest Justice Center courthouse in Marietta. Actually, no, I'm at the Southwest Juvenile Courthouse. So I'm assigned to a juvenile dependency courtroom. Um, I'm on my fourth year in there. I kind of been everywhere. So this is new. Well, it's not new, but I hadn't done that assignment before. So Um, credentials. So I've been a reporter for 29 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, I'm an RPR and a CRR, and I guess that's it. Uh,
That's a lot.
that's all.
You do
That's all
real
I
time,
have.
right? You do real time.
I do real time. I do real time to my judge who uses it like it's his right arm. If
Okay.
it goes down, we stop everything. So he's a huge proponent of reporters. He loves us. He thinks
Oh,
we're very valuable. So, and he's all about the record. So I'm super fortunate to work for him because he's one of those judges that just very much appreciates what we do.
yeah, it's amazing, right? It's amazing when you have a really great judge.
It is. And they have your back and, they just appreciate you. It's nice.
Right. It's really
So
nice.
I have something to say about him too.
Okay.
So when I first started court reporting here at the courthouse, I had never done real time. I mean, I had done like a depo or two, and I
Uh-huh.
was a reporter for 15 years, but I had like scared of real time. So I started working for him and he watches his screen. So
Like
talk
like
about,
like this
yeah, like watching.
every uh-huh.
No, he's watching every single word, which is very scary. So anyways, he just he watched his screen. He was super particular, like, he wants to be able to read it. So anyways, I just covered for him every once in a while and it scared me to death to work for him. But then fast forward to getting assigned to him and I passed the CRR. I think
Oh,
because he was so particular and I always tell him you made me a better reporter. So because I
yeah,
wanted
because he pushes you, he pushed you right a little bit. Yeah.
exactly. So anyway, there's a little story about having to do real time. So
That's great. And
loving it.
so this courthouse in Marietta, that's in California, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I
Okay,
forget you're
that's
everywhere.
okay. No, I think, just for people who may not know the area.
I'm in California, Southern California.
Okay. So let me ask you, when you just go back in time,
Okay.
why did you choose a career in court reporting?
So my husband has five cousins that all we are high school sweethearts actually before that. So while we were both in high school, his cousins were all either current reporters or talking their sisters into going to court reporting school. So he started before me. He went to court reporting school before me.
Really? I
Yeah.
never knew that.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool because he gets it, he
Yeah,
understands.
yeah.
Um, so but one of his, I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be an interior designer and an architect. One of his cousins was a working, very successful interior designer who decided to quit that job to be a reporter. So
Wow.
she talked me out of going to interior design school, and they all told me you should be a court reporter. So here I am.
Wow, that's really interesting. I always wanted to be an architect too. I took drafting classes and stuff. I was like one of two girls in the class.
Same. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I got into it.
Can you share with us maybe a funny story, an experience you had maybe on a case or a witness or anything that you can think of?
Oh boy. I don't have any like really, really ugh. I do have a few, but they're so inappropriate. Like I don't think I should share those. Um, the stuff that sticks with you that you just laugh at for a really long time. Um, I will say that I did family law for a period of time, and just the stuff that went on in there, like, that you're dealing with pro pers, and so they just kind of all holes barred, there where they just say whatever. So I don't know. I just loved it when like the one of the parties would say objection, Your Honor, and the judge would say, "What's the objection? She's lying." Stuff like that. We had
I love that objection. Objection, lying.
exactly. So, and I think I told you this a couple days ago, that we had a board where we just kept all of our fun quotes, and you don't remember them because they happen so fast, and
Right.
it's like you
And
think
there's
you're
so
gonna
many.
remember that there's so many. It's just like, I don't know, we just had a really good time in there. um I think when I was in family law, one of the judges that I worked with thought it was funny to try to make me laugh, because that's a hard thing about this job, is you can't show your facial expressions well. I am so not good at that. So I had a judge who thought it was just so much fun to try and make me laugh. So we had this case where it was a restraining order hearing, and it was a brother and a sister. And the brother had gone, he said he went to his car and he was trying to get something out of his trunk, and here she comes up, and then she bites him in the back of the head. And or she did something. She like, oh, he took his finger to the side of his mouth and he started like gnawing, like r.
Oh my God.
So knowing that I was not, and it was, the whole entire hearing was
Yeah.
really funny because it was just like, it was just brother and sister bickering. So it was kind of funny. And then my judge leaned over and he said, "Did you get that?" And I just started busting up laughing. I'm like, how do I write R? I don't know.
Right.
Like,
Now you have a brief for it, probably.
yeah, right. Now I do. So anyway, just funny stuff like that. Restraining orders for sure
Yeah.
are
Are funny.
the
I mean, some
comedy.
are. Some
Some,
are.
yeah, but I just mean like in the sense of, some are
Like
sad.
memorable.
Yeah, I mean just the stuff they come up with. So, but
Okay.
I'm sure other funny stuff later when you're not asking me.
Yeah, like tomorrow you'll probably remember some things. Um, did you ever come across anything in court reporting where it was pretty challenging and you overcame it?
Oh man, I have a lot of those. This department that I'm currently in is probably the most challenging thing I've ever done. It is
Awesome.
emotionally taxing. It's exhausting. It's really just, it's a lot. The terminology is different from any other terminology in the courthouse. So getting used to that was, like a challenge. So I think that I've pretty much smooth sailed like my entire career and kind of done like easy and just had it easy. And
Uh-huh.
I mean, even when I was in a trial assignment, um, I mean, things get hard, but it's only hard for like, short periods of time. Like you have a rough witness or you have a, just a bad
Right.
day, whatever. But this is like it's a daily grind. So I think this is the toughest part of my whole entire career. But
You
over,
mean the being in this type of court with the type of cases that you're hearing on a
yes,
daily basis?
yep, it's rough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, we're like a family in there. There's a
Oh, that's
whole
really nice.
entire
Wow.
table of attorneys. So it's not just like one or two. There's a panel of about 10. It's actually 10 to 12. They kind of rotate out. A couple of them do. So it's like a family. They all work together.
Oh,
And
that's super nice.
yeah, so we're going through it together. But um, so that's one of the challenges. Of course, learning how to get over that anxiety of real time. That was a challenge because I'm an anxiety test taker. I'm just an ball of anxiety, period. So
Yeah. So
uh
how did you overcome it then if you have this anxiety?
just do it. I don't know. I just do it. I'm
You
I just
just
figure
power through it.
the more you do it, the easier it gets, and you're gonna have bad days. I mean, it's just, you just have
Right,
to,
right.
you're human. So
Yeah.
um but
It's like working out, right? Like it's like, oh,
you don't want to.
yeah, and you get really, really sore and everything. But if you keep doing it, you get better at it.
You get better at it and it gets easier. And I mean, I spend a lot of time trying to be better. I practiced
Mhm.
a lot, and I like in the courtrooms I was in, I would try to like just be better. If I was in a calendar courtroom that had some downtime, I would practice and try to, because I really wanted to pass the CRR. So I'll just set that goal for myself because it's a good thing to have.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing that, here you are, you're a working reporter. You don't really need to, you know, go up higher. And yet here you are, you're doing it, you're setting goals for yourself. That's
Yeah. Well,
really, it's really admirable.
thank you. Well, ultimately, if you think about it, the better writer you are, the less editing you have, and the more time you save
Yeah,
yourself on the back end. So I'm
true.
all about having a product that is, nearly finished.
Right, right, right. Save you a lot of time on the end,
Does.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
editing can take forever.
It can.
I know this one of the scariest thing is losing your dictionary, right?
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't imagine someone trying to like make heads or tails out of what I write. So I brief everything, and in my
Oh,
department,
do you?
everything is like my judge says the same thing over and over. So I just write like a couple words for an
Right.
entire paragraph. So yeah,
Yeah.
that would be tragic. So hopefully my dictionary never goes away.
Back it up, back it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, what what advice would you give to someone considering court reporting as a career?
Um, well, I mean, I've done that. My sister-in-law actually is in
Mhm.
court reporting school because of me. I'm like,
Oh,
you go. What
that's
advice?
great.
Um, I don't know, just do it. I mean, the A to Z program is a great way to find out if that's even something you would be remotely interested in.
I
So I
agree.
would tell someone, try that because, obviously it's not for everybody.
Right.
And it's hard, but it's rewarding. So, um, I would say start there.
Okay. And how is it rewarding?
Being a court reporter.
Uh,
Well, um, I mean, besides the having a career and the amazing amount of flexibility that we have, I think it's kind of in a way it's a misnomer that we put ourselves in a box, because we're only trained to do this. And I used to think that, like, what did I do to myself where like, I can only be a court reporter. But the thing about court reporting is there's so many different opportunities. There's so many
That's true.
directions you can go.
That's
So,
true.
um, so in that regard, I mean, there's just a lot of things. I got an email this morning from Harvard saying that they're hiring for cart reporters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that, like, the
Yeah,
opportunities are just not endless, but there's a lot of things that maybe you don't think about, and maybe you don't want to work in court or whatever.
right.
There's a lot of stuff out
Maybe you
there.
want to be a captioner and
Exactly.
caption, sporting events or the Olympics or something.
Exactly. So, and it's flexible. I mean, you can work part-time, you can work full-time, you can work yourself nearly to death, which I'm sure we've all done at some point.
Like most people do in the legal industry.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Um, what advice would you give a student court reporter who might be, feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't get past this speed. I'm stuck, I'm practicing, but I can't pass this one speed test and get to the next level. What advice would you give a court reporting student?
So I was stuck many times. It took me 5 years to get out of school. So,
Was
because
that part-time or full-time?
I was full time, but like I said, I mean, I went through speeds kind of, I got stuck in 180s for like
Oh, that's a
what
pretty high speed.
seemed like forever, like forever. Um, and I started just pushing, like going to the higher speed classes, even though it blew me away. Um, so my advice when you get stuck in a speed is to push the higher speed. And then the speed you go back to doesn't sound so fast. Um, so, and then
Like,
I
like
also,
20 words
yeah, like
faster or 30 words faster?
I would go to like the 200 class or even the 225 class, even though I was trying to get out of 180s. Um, and then the other thing I think is super valuable is actually listening to really, really slow. Well, I'm gonna date myself and say tapes. Yikes. We used to take like
We'll edit that out and
10
say
minutes.
streaming or something.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just say you want to get on YouTube and um but yeah, I slower, like much, much, much slower, and really pay attention to how you're writing and your finger, like, where your fingers are. And I'm one of those perfectionist writers where I will write so perfect and then drop an entire page of testimony because I was fighting so hard for that perfection that, like,
Right.
I didn't hear an entire, and even the first CSI, it took me twice to pass the CSR. And the first one I missed by 4. And if
Oh,
you're that close,
breaking.
they'll review it like, oh, well, maybe, there's something. But
Right.
literally my entire transcript was complete perfection, like not one single error. And the only thing were drops. And you can't, like,
Oh, yeah.
there's
Can't
nothing you can do.
punctuate that.
Exactly.
Get it in.
So
Yeah.
that, being a perfectionist is to your detriment sometimes in this career, at least when you're trying to, get out of school, and then it's a
Right, right,
valuable tool later. But
right.
um yeah, so I would say even write low speeds for, a while, and just work
Like,
on
like dense and slow. Just
exactly
be able to write words you're not familiar with.
not familiar with. So stuff will come up and you don't hesitate on, like when something comes at you that you've never heard, you're used to kind of dealing with that happening to you, but at a lower speed where you feel more confident.
Right. And you can
Um,
kind of think on the fly, like, okay, I could write it this way.
right. Exactly. Because when it's slower, you have more time to, like, oh, hey, like my
Yeah.
brain is on overdrive.
You can actually think about it.
Yeah, actually
You have
think.
time to think about it.
Hmm.
Right, right. That's great advice.
Thanks.
Um, when you're even if it was in school or after school, when during your career or anything, did you ever have a mentor, somebody who, helped you get from one place to another or help you with your career in some way?
Um, oh gosh, I mean, teachers, I had a lot of great teachers, that just, make you feel good about yourself and try to get you through. The very first agency owner that I worked for was, she was really great at making you like, you can do anything. It's fine. You can do it. You can do it. You are like that as
Yeah.
well. Um, and I mean, just I have it, the nice thing too about working in a courthouse is a peer your peer group, and it's super great to have a network of people here that are close to you that know exactly what you're going through, or maybe they've done this courtroom before, or they
Right.
just know how hard, it can be
Yeah.
sometimes, or how
Right.
great it can be. So, you have the stories you can tell each other, and you can reach out to
Right.
each other, help each other with software, or,
Yes.
trial stuff. Like, here's a bunch of briefs. Oh, when I
Right.
first came to court, one of the reporters had the greatest big huge book of briefs for like a calendar court, and I got assigned in there because it was like a very undesirable place. So I'm the new girl on the totem pole. So but I just remember thinking that book was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life. So, just little stuff like that.
Yeah, right. Because
Really
that
helped
can
me.
make your writing so much faster and easier. And even if you're not familiar with the terms, because, everybody else's are just like saying it so fast, because they're just so used to saying these terms.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and everything in not everything, but there's a lot of stuff that comes up in criminal that's so multisyllabic. Like, you know,
Right.
in my courtroom, it's like jurisdictional, disposition, and like that's a lot of syllables. If you have no
Right.
idea that's gonna come up, you're like, whoa, I don't know. I mean, that's like, that's 10,
Right.
12 strokes. So yeah, just having like a book of like, here's what you're
Right.
gonna hear.
Right.
So
And having other reporters, like you said, a network of it who understand your challenges and struggles. And
mhm.
then they, hey, this is what I did, and they can help.
Exactly. Yeah, and to be able to reach out to each other and what do you do for this, or how do you handle that? And
Right.
it's nice. It's nice to have that. So
Um, why do you love court reporting?
today, or my entire almost 30-year career, um, I think in general, I love being a court reporter because it's it's a it's challenging. It definitely keeps you on your toes. But I've loved it my whole career because when I was a mom, I could be a depo reporter and I could work part-time. And when my son went to middle school, and um I didn't need to be at school all the time and all that.
Right.
So then I thought, okay, well, maybe, I'll go into full-time work in court. And then, you know, that was flexible because you're not bringing depots home and transcribing every single night. So I love flexibility, or I love court reporting for the flexibility of it, that you know, it's as hard as you want to work. If you don't want to work that hard, you don't have to. And you
Right.
can still make a, really good living. And I love it because it's a skill that not everybody can do.
Right.
It's, um
I
it's
agree.
yeah, it's like kind of like, wow, I can do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And you could be anywhere. Like you don't have to be in California, right? You
right,
could have this skill and work in other areas, even other countries.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, and now with, remote stuff, it opens up a whole world of, doing all kinds of things in different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're, like even if your spouse is in the military and they have to go work in Spain or, they get stationed in Spain or something, you could still be a reporter.
Right. That's one of my credentials that I forgot. I'm a licensed Washington reporter too.
Oh, that's right.
I left that out.
Right. We have to make sure that's in there.
Yeah, because that's one of my favorite things I've ever done was do a travel depot to Washington, and it was an asbestos depot for you, as a matter of fact. And it's one of my favorite memories of this job.
Oh, why is that? I love that. But
Um,
why is that?
well, I was scared to death because it was asbestos. And even though
Uh-huh.
I had done experts, and I had Paige, my mentor, giving me all the words and helping me. Um, but it's like scary. You're like traveling with your stuff and you have no idea. This little city, which was the cutest place ever, Silverdale, Washington, I went to. And so the depot was in a conference room of a hotel, and they set it up classroom style, and there were like 25 attorneys in there, and
Oh
there were like 10 of them on the phone. I was like, okay. So yeah, so that it was terrifying, but it was my favorite because once I got through it, it was like I just did that. It was, I don't know. And then
were you on a ship or boat or something? Did you have to take a ferry or?
I took a ferry. Yeah, we did take a ferry because we flew into Seattle, and then we took a ferry to Silverdale to do the depot. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. And then we made, once the depot was over, because you had to pump it out that same night, get it all done or whatever. So once it was done, it was like, yay. So we just, hung out in Washington, and I had never been up there. So we made
So
a
you get a
trip.
chance to sightsee a little bit, explore the area.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
being a travel reporter is something that's super desirable and fun because,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. You go to places you would never think you would want to visit.
exactly.
But there's always something charming and to a lot of places that you would never
Mhm.
think about. So
Yep.
just a bonus question.
Okay.
If there's one thing you wish an attorney would do or would not do,
Just
what would that
one.
be? We have to keep the interview short.
Okay, just one. One thing that an attorney would do or not do.
Yeah, what would you wish for them to do or not do?
Um, Gosh, God, I don't know. I mean, any attorney that talks very, very, very fast, um, and kind of all over the place, like, but I,
Them to
that
breathe.
that's something they can't fit. Some of them just can't fix it because, they
Right.
talk how they talk. So something they wouldn't do. Um, what I love when attorneys do
What?
is if you're in trial, or you're going to do a depo that is like heavy and something like asbestos, or
Mhm.
chemicals or stuff like that. When they show up and they have a word list for you, and they're all about like, hey, Madam Reporter, here's what's going to come up. Here's, we know you're going to need this. I love that.
Me too. I love that. That's a great one.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Anytime I did prelims, like there was a
Uh-huh.
district attorney here that always showed up with he literally had a list of like the addresses, the people's names, like everything for the reporter. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'd
Wow.
always tell him like,
Give
you
that
should be
guy
like,
an
I
applause.
know. I would always tell him, you're my favorite. I'm serious. I'm not even like,
Oh my
you're my
gosh,
favorite.
that makes such a huge
It
difference.
does because you're doing real time. So, like just having that quick, like you really quick
Right.
can put something in your dictionary. So it may come up or whatever, make a brief really quick, but
Like
that's
if
my
they say,
favorite.
Mr. Apartapitical is gonna be in the case. You're like,
Exactly. So it
what?
doesn't kill you when it comes up, or then you have to stop them and all that. So, but
Right, right,
my
right.
favorite is when some crazy name comes up and my judge is like, can you spell that? And I'm like, no, I don't need that. You look at your screen, it's right there, all pretty and done. So yeah, so I love that. I love when
Yeah,
they think about you and your job.
right, right.
Yeah.
I
So
love that too. That's a great one.
mhm.
Well, thank you so much for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
experience as a court reporter. You're an amazing reporter. I
Thank
know
you.
that because I've firsthand seen your work.
Thank
But
you.
thanks for sharing your experience for people who may not know this career or students that are striving to become like you know. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.